All right, well, good afternoon. It is section 4.5, least common multiples, which we also call the LCM. Between the greatest common factor and the least common multiple, these are the ones that get the most confused. Many students forget which one is telling you to do what. So what we need to make certain we understand is truly the meaning of what multiple is and factors, with greatest common factors compared to multiples. So what I want you to do is go ahead and hit pause and copy this information down into your notes. So go ahead and do that. All right, looking at this, first of all, it says, what is a multiple? Well, a multiple is when you can count by the same number. So you're counting by, in this case, counting by threes. So when we do this, you're looking at 3, 6, 9, 12, and then it would be adding another 3 to this, which would be 15, and another 3 onto 15 would be 18, and so on. That is a multiple, counting by that particular number. There's, again, a couple different ways you can look at it. One is adding that same number to the previous number, or you could also be simply taking that answer and multiplying it as well for each term. So when you say multiplying it by that term, you could be going from 3 times 1 is 3. 3, oops, let me go down to here. Sorry about that. You could say 3 times 2, which is 6. This one would be 3 times 3, which is 9. And then you could also say the 3 times 4, which would then give me 12. So there's lots of different ways you could look at it to go about finding the multiples. So take whichever you choose and go with it from there. But do be very, very careful when solving those problems that you are going to count by that number or multiply. I think most students will find that counting by that particular number is the easiest, and just basically saying 3, 6, or adding 3 onto each term, the previous term, to get those answers. With common multiples, multiples that are shared by 2 or more numbers, for example 4 and 8 in this problem, here's my 4, and we're going to count by 4s. So 4 plus 4 more is 8, plus 4 more is 12, and 4 more is 16, all the way down to 40. Then the next one is the 8, so then we count by 8s. So 8 plus 8 more is 16, plus 8 more is 24, plus 8 more is 32, and so on. Again, we can look at this as 8 times 1, or 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4, and so on to get those answers. It's however you want to look at it. Now we're looking at common multiples. So what's common? Well, my 8s are common. My 16s are common. Looks like 24s are common. My 32s are common. And my 40s are common. Okay? So this is where you can see all these common multiples, and if it's asking you to list the first 3 common multiples, then my answer would be 8, 16, and 24. If they're asking you for the least common multiple, then it would be the smallest one, which is 8. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at our first problem, and it says again that we are needing to identify the first 3 common multiples of each set of numbers. So we are going to list them. And we're going to start with the numbers given, so 6, and then we're going to add 6 more to that, which is 12, and 6 more to that is 18, And 6 more onto 18 would be 24. And 6 more onto that is 30. I like to list the first 5 to get started. We can always go back if we need to and add more. So then we're going to go with 9. So 9 and then 18. 9 more is 27. And 9 more is 36. And 9 more is 45. So now I can look to see what my common numbers are. And I can see that 18 is my first. And then I don't have any more that are common, so I'm going to have to continue on. So now I'm going back to counting by 6s. So 36, and then 42, and then 48, and then 6 more onto 48 would be 54. And so then we'll continue down here with my 9s. And 9 onto 45 would then give me 54. And I can see that now I do have some common numbers as I go back and compare. I've got a 36, and there's no 45, and then there's a 54. And again, I'm looking for the first 3. So my answer to this is 18, 36, and 54. Okay? Now, if you want to look at this in a little different way, if you realize that the least common denominator, which is 18, you would find if you're finding the multiples now of that least common denominator or least common multiple, the multiple of that, if you add 18 onto 18, or 18 times 2, that gives me 36, and 18 times 3 does give me 54. So that's another shortcut of finding the first 3 common multiples of that particular number as well. Okay, same thing back here with the common multiples. You can see the common multiples are multiples of the least common multiple, which is 8. Go ahead, these are now 3 numbers, so yes, all 3 must be the same in order to be common. So I'm going to let you hit pause and go ahead and solve this. So we start with 3, and so we 3, 6, 9, 12, 3 more is 15, 3 more is 18, 3 more is 21. We'll stop there, and then we'll continue on if needed. And then we have 9, 18, 27, 36, and 45. And then we have the 18. So 18, 36, 54. And if we need to keep adding that on, we can look at 54 and say, well, that plus 18, and we get 12, carry the 1, and so we get 72. And we can add another 18 onto that, and we get 0, carry the 1, and we get 90. Okay, and so on. However you want to go about that. Or you can multiply it as well. 18 times 1, 18 times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. So now let's look at comparing. And we see that there are no 9s except for these 2 right here, which it has to be all 3. And we see that we have 18. And we've got to continue on with this top one. So 21, we're going to add, again, add 3 onto that. So 24, 27, there's 30, 33, 36. Okay, as we go through this. And so now let's compare, and we see that there is a 36 in each one of them. Okay. And then the next one, 54s, because again, we're basically going by multiples. It can't be smaller than our next multiple of the largest number. So we only have a 54 for the next one. So it's a question of, do these other ones go into 54? So we'll kind of start there and see where we go. This next one, adding 9 onto that would give us 54. And then we can continue. I'm going to actually have to, because I'm running out of space, bring it back up here. So 39, because I'm adding 3. 42, 45, 48, and then 51, and then 54, and sure enough, it does. Here's my 54 here, and 54 here, and the 54 goes all the way up there. Whoops, I'm all messed up there. Sorry about that. So there's my 54. I know it looks like a mess, obviously, because I can't go on any further, and your paper would go on much further than that. As I think you are beginning to see and will continue to see for the multiples, that it has to be a multiple of the largest number for those others to go into. So sometimes you don't even have to go continue on. You can just see, does 3 go into 54? And it does. Okay, so the answer to this is 18, 36, and 54 for my first 3 common multiples. So now let's look at finding just the least common multiple. So go ahead and hit pause and solve this. So we're going to start with 7s. So 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and then we will compare here with my 9. So I get 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and I'm not seeing anything yet, so I'm going to keep going on and continuing with this. So I get 63, 72, and now I'll get myself caught up, add 7 more onto that, which is going to give me my 49, and then 56, and then 63, and I can see right now that I have my 63, and there's my answer. Okay. Now if you look at this 7 and the 9 and you multiply those together, you get 63. That will not always be the case. I'm just giving you a heads up. That is not always the case, so please do not try to follow that suit. That is not necessarily the situation. It would be a common multiple, but not necessarily the least common. So do not get yourself caught in that situation. Okay? So my least common multiple is 63 with 7 and 9. But remember, it won't always be 63 or the answer to those 2 numbers multiplied together. Let's go ahead and look at the next one and go ahead and solve this. And remember that all 3 have to be the same. So go ahead and solve this. So I have 15, and then 30, and then 45. 15 more is 60. 15 more is 75. And 15 more is 90. Now I'm going to compare my 25. So 25, 50, 75, and 100. And then I can compare the next, which would be 75. And I see that I already have a common multiple of 75 without even having to do any more with the 75 itself. Okay? So again, listing the multiples is the best format to doing this, and eventually we're going to take this a step further and be talking about the least common denominators when we are trying to do that with fractions. You will see that when we do compare that and work with the common denominators, many times it's smaller numbers with these as well. But you learn some shortcuts to it as well, and doing what we're doing here, we're going to learn from this to be able to see those shortcuts, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. So have a great evening. If you have any questions, concerns, please write those down and we can discuss them further tomorrow. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.